Welcome to the myofascial release portion of this course. Now you'll remember myofascia as the term for the muscles and their relationship with our fascial tissues. Remember, the fascial tissues not only surround all the muscles, but truly encase it at every layer, from muscle cells all the way up through muscle fibers. So my goal for this next piece is for now that you're starting to understand the stories behind our muscles, how they show up in movement, how they show up in the practice of yoga, you can now have a direct neuromuscular experience of them. Before we dive straight into the work, the props you'll need. Go ahead and make sure that you have 2 single balls. These could also be tennis balls. I really like this brand, Rad. You can find other similar brands on Amazon, or use any ball really that isn't as hard as a lacrosse ball. You want the ball to have a little bit of give to it. Now, if you don't have a double ball, I call this the peanut, you can go ahead and also get a sock, and that can be the way we bring these 2 balls together. The next 2 props you'll want is a block. I've got a cork one here, which is gonna be a little more intense. You could also have a foam block, that might be preferred. And then do have with you a small towel or blanket, and we can really use that to pad the balls if some of that work starts to get intense. Speaking of intensity, know that the goal for this practice is for it to be breathable, for our muscles to continue to relax more the more we breathe. So if you start to work at a level that's so intense that you're gritting your teeth, that your muscles are tightening up in response to the work, it's past the point of being productive. For the sake of simplicity, imagine a 10-point scale. You want this work to live somewhere between a 4 and a 6 on that intensity scale. So what do you do if you bump up into an area that I guide you to that's too intense? For one, you could take your blanket or something soft on top of the balls to create a little padding. But another approach could be to work around it. We find that working around agitated or inflamed tissues can still bring some of the benefits to those tissues without having to have that direct painful experience of being on it when a direct contact might not be productive. Now, you might be wondering what actually happens when we use these balls. For the sake of this course, let's focus on 3 main benefits. The first benefit is if we know that our connective tissues are predominantly water, it's really important that they stay hydrated and buoyant. So when we apply pressure of balls onto our muscles, and that'll look a lot more like an acupressure technique as opposed to rolling the balls around, when the balls are removed, there's this influx of blood flow, hydration, nutrient exchange that comes into the tissues to really facilitate healing and recovery. The next thing I'd like you to think about is the relationship of these muscles to our nervous system. I like to imagine using these balls on our tissues almost like hitting a reset button. We know our nervous system and our tissues together store the information of what's happened previously in the body, whether it be a past injury, a surgery, a postural position, or even maybe emotional trauma. And if we can start to rewire that relationship between the nervous system and our fascia, we have the ability to start to reprogram those tissues with more functional patterns and habits, maybe through your yoga practice. The last thing I'd like you to think about is the nervous system. We've discussed the parasympathetic nervous system state, being that more rest and digest state, and the sympathetic nervous system state, being your stress response. When we can downregulate the nervous system into the parasympathetic, we have less intense pain signals and can be on a better path to recovery. If we're able to use the balls in a way that isn't creating a huge deal of pressure, but we're able to continue to breathe and soften into it, research shows that this practice can have a lot of the same benefits in terms of the nervous system as breathing, as meditation, and that can be so potent. So as we dive in, a few things I want you to think about. Your first thing is never going so intense that your muscles are tightening in response. If that happens, back away, pad your balls, or move your balls slightly. The next thing is let's try and avoid bone. We want to be more on the belly or the meaty part of the muscle. So if you feel like you're working in a very bony area, move your ball until you find something that has a little more meat to it. And then the next, do avoid working on nerves. And you'll know when you're working directly on a nerve, the signal in the body is quite clear. But We shouldn't be having any signals in doing this work that feel painful. Let that be your guiding light. This should feel really good and supportive. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the muscles of the abdomen.